November so far. I need to do November birthdays, but I'm going to wait till next week. I hope you're having a good week, and I hope you've enjoyed the wonderful weather that we've had this week. Thanksgiving's coming soon, winter's coming soon, and it's going to get chilly. So get outside and enjoy that sunshine and the beautiful fall color while you can. Today, our lesson is one of my favorites. If you know me, you know that I have a son named Sammy. Well, his real name is Samuel, and we named him in part after our family on both sides, and in part after the guy in today's story. Today's story, we're learning about Samuel from the beginning of the book 1 Samuel, chapter 3 today. Samuel was a little boy, and he was growing up at the tabernacle, which is what we would call the church. And he grew up there, and his teacher was named Eli. Well, something amazing happened to Samuel one night while he was in bed. He heard a voice. If you're in bed at night and a voice wakes you up, whose voice do you think it is? I usually think it's my daughter's voice, the young one who's upstairs wanting something. Once in a while, it's one of my other kids, or I might expect that it's the dog barking outside. Maybe someone walking down the street. I can't imagine much of anything else. Who do you think it might be? Well, in this case, it was God's voice. But Samuel didn't know yet. He thought it was Eli, of course, because if you hear a voice in the night, you assume it's someone in your house. So Samuel went in there. Well, let's just read it from God's Word, the Bible.
1 Samuel 3:1-5 says, Now the young man Samuel was ministering to the Lord under Eli, and the word of the Lord was rare in those days. There was no frequent vision. At that time, Eli, whose eyesight had begun to grow dim so that he could not see, was lying down in his own place. The lamp of God had not yet gone out, and Samuel was lying down in the temple of the Lord where the ark of God was. Then the Lord called Samuel, and he said, Here I am, and ran to Eli and said, Here I am, for you called me. But he said, I did not call you. Lie down again. So he went and lay down.
Have you ever been confused about what you heard? Samuel was really confused about what he was hearing. That reminds me of a game.
Today, let's play a game about sound. All right, we're going to give you 3 sounds, and you need to guess what it is. Number 1. Here we go. All right, did you get it? Don't forget what you think it is. Here's sound number 2. Did you get that sound? Don't forget it. There's one more. Here's sound number 3. Got it? All right. And here's the answers.
What?
Sound number 1 was a passing jet airplane. Did you get it? You could have said jet or airplane or a passing jet airplane. In any case, you're right. All right, and number 2. Did you get number 2? Bowling. Now, if you've never been bowling, you probably didn't know that sound. But that was the sound of a bowling ball being dropped, rolling down the alley, and knocking over some pins. Way to go, bowlers. And sound number 3 was... You got it. It was sheep, everybody. Sheep. Lots and lots of bad sheep. All right. Thanks for playing.
Which one of those sounds was the easiest for you to figure out? And why was it the easiest? Was it maybe because it's the sound you know? You've heard it before. You know that thing. And that ought to tell you something about God. When we know God, the better we know Him, the better we understand Him, the easier it is to hear His voice and understand Him. Isn't that cool? See, Samuel didn't understand. He was just sure it was Eli who was calling him. But it wasn't Eli, and someone else understood. Someone who'd been learning about God and learning to listen to His voice for much longer. Let's read.
Verses 6 through 8 say, "And the Lord called again, 'Samuel.' And Samuel arose and went to Eli and said, 'Here I am, for you called me.' But he said, 'I did not call you, my son. Lie down again.' Now Samuel did not yet know the Lord, and the word of the Lord had not yet been revealed to him. And the Lord called Samuel again the third time. And he arose and went to Eli and said, 'Here I am, for you called me.' Then Eli perceived that the Lord was calling the young man.
Did you see that? Who was it? Who was it that knew whose voice it was? It was Eli. Eli understood. Eli knew that it was God's voice speaking to Samuel.
Therefore Eli said to Samuel, 'Go, lie down, and if he calls you, you shall say, "Speak, Lord, for your servant hears." So Samuel went and lay down in his place. And the Lord came and stood, calling as at other times, "Samuel, Samuel." And Samuel said, "Speak, for your servant hears."
If God were going to talk to you with a voice you can hear, we say audible voice, at night, what would you hope He said? Maybe, "Free ice cream for everybody!" Or how about, "All the ice cream you can eat without the tummy aches." Or how about, "You're doing a great job." Or how about, "Jesus is coming maybe tomorrow at 5 o'clock, so be ready." Yeah, there's so many wonderful things that God does tell us and that we would love to hear Him say. Samuel did not hear happy news from God. There was some bad news. See, Eli had sons in his family, and they did some really bad things. They weren't trusting God. They weren't being honest. And God wanted Eli to know that because his sons were making really bad choices, Eli and his sons were going to be punished. That's what Samuel had to tell his teacher. "Teacher, God said that you and your sons are going to be punished for all the sins of your sons." Let's see how Eli reacted when he heard God's word.
Verses 17 and 18 say, "And Eli said, 'What was it that he told you? Do not hide it from me. May God do so to you and more also if you hide anything from me of all that he told you.' So Samuel told him everything and hid nothing from him. And he said, 'It is the Lord. Let him do what seems good to him.'"
Did you hear what Eli said after he heard the bad news? He said, "It is the Lord. Let him do what seems good to him." Wow. Eli so loved and trusted the Lord and so believed the Lord's words that even if it was bad news, Eli wanted what the Lord wanted. Boys and girls, when we hear hard things from God, just as much as when we hear good things from God, we need to trust Him. When God speaks, we listen. No matter what it is He has to say to us, whether it's good or bad, hard or easy, we listen. And listen not just to hear it, but to obey. We agree with God because God is always right. And we love Him. God is always good to us and to all of His people. So when God speaks, we listen. When God speaks, we listen. Now, when God speaks good news, it's easy to listen, right? But sometimes He needs to tell me something that's not so happy, and it's hard to listen, but guess what? When God speaks, I listen, whether it's good news or bad news. Well, Eli listened, even though it was hard news, and Samuel kept telling others about God's word. Let's read.
Verses 19 and 20 say, "And Samuel grew, and the Lord was with him, and let none of his words fall to the ground. And all Israel, from Dan to Beersheba, knew that Samuel was established as a prophet of the Lord."
Samuel, did you know what happened? He kept growing and being a prophet and growing and telling others God's word. And eventually, God asked him to choose the next king. And he got this guy named Jesse and his whole family, all his sons, to line up. And Samuel chose the youngest, smallest son. And you know what his name was? King David. It was King David. And that was Jesus's great, lots of greats, grandfather. God used Samuel. What a great story. And you know what else? It's true, because all the stories in God's word, the Bible, are true. Have a great week, boys and girls. Listen to God. Now go pray and see what He has to say to you.